Have you ever been disrespected? I'm sure some of you will agree that that can happen, and sometimes you don't get a say in when it happens. It just kind of comes out of the blue, and you're like, wow, you really said that, or you really did that. Okay, now I get to see you for who you are. But then what happens when you're disrespected more than once? Well, to a degree, that's on you. Because if somebody has disrespected you once and you've seen that, you have to believe that that's who they really are. And so to allow them to do that multiple times after is you allowing that. Keyword is allow. They are going to do what they are going to do unless you decide otherwise. And this is what's so important in all relationships, not just toxic relationships that you are trying to either change and mold into something more positive, but in every relationship that you have, it's really important for you to set boundaries. Hi, I'm Anthea, founder of Amarkai Group. We help entrepreneurs and small business owners to skyrocket their success so that they can create more impact in the world. Continue watching to find out how you can avoid negative, toxic people. Why? Because not everybody understands how to treat others. Most people treat others on how they would like to be treated. Some people treat others based on what they learnt in how to treat others. So again, when you think about how people were raised, the things that they've seen, the things that they have experienced, and they are now going to get into relationships at work with partners, with friends, and with family, they will go based on what they've seen. If that hasn't been positive, then it's likely that the interactions with you will also not be positive. It's not necessarily their fault, but it's for you to determine whether or not that is acceptable to you. So really need to start thinking about who do you have around you and who do you get triggered by? Who do you feel like I don't necessarily want to do this or tell them something because you're likely to get a negative response in return? Now, these are sometimes indicators of where you have relationships that are not necessarily positive. Anytime you're trying to avoid, anytime you say yes when you really mean no, anytime you're kind of guilted into doing things, these are relationships that probably need to be checked. So when you think about the relationships you have and the boundaries that you need to set, the first question that you need to ask yourself is, what do you really want? What do you actually want from this relationship? Is it just because you're at work or because you have an actual interest in the person? Maybe you have some shared common interests. Maybe you're good at networking. Maybe they have great contacts that you can connect with. Maybe this is a romantic partner that you can see yourself with long term. Maybe you're trying to re-establish broken relationships in your family. But either way, you have to figure out what it is you want from that relationship, because then you'll be able to understand what is it that you are willing to tolerate. Now, this comes down to you as an individual. Everybody has their own different thresholds in terms of what they're able to tolerate. You may not want somebody calling you at midnight to tell you about their day. You may not want someone turning up on your doorstep unannounced. You may not want someone to constantly just be complaining every time they see you. Right? You may not want someone to go and do things on your behalf without consulting you. Now, again, we don't have control of other people. We don't have control of life. We only control ourselves. So we get to control the portion of the relationship that we feed into and contribute to, and expect that we get the same in return. Communication is a really big thing. Are you communicating with these people to explain what it is that you want from this relationship and how you want to be treated? Again, this doesn't just confine itself to romantic relationships. This is everything. People will treat you in any way that you allow. And that's it. If it happens the first time, that's your cue to say, no, red flag, didn't appreciate that. Actually, I don't like it when you do this, or I didn't like it when you do that. I get what you were trying to do, but this is how it made me feel. And the other person is going to receive that because, again, if they have a vested interest in this relationship and it's a positive one, they're going to take your feedback on board. And then you get to learn how do they deal with feedback about how you can better your relationship in the process. So now you have a clearer understanding about what it is that you do and don't like from someone, you have to communicate that, because they are not mind readers. They are not going to know that you don't want those late night phone calls. They are not going to know that you're okay with buying things and then asking for half the money back later that they didn't even consult you about. There are so many things people do, but it's just natural to them. But is it natural to you? Unless you tell somebody, they will never know. So think about it. What is it you want? What are you willing to tolerate? And what is your definition of respect? If you feel like you've been disrespected, that means a line has been crossed. But the question is, did you draw the line in the first place? Do they know where the line was drawn? Again, it comes back down to communication. What is respect for you? How do you want to be treated? How do you treat others? What's the best way for people to communicate something that they dislike happening? These are all really important factors for strengthening relationships. Now, sometimes the relationships that we have gotten toxic over time simply because we haven't set boundaries, simply because we haven't communicated, right? And so this is now an opportunity for you to say, right, I get where we've been. I'm not really feeling this. I definitely think this is a relationship that's worth investing in, but it could be better. And these are the ways that I think I can make this better. By communicating, by understanding what it is that I want, what I'm willing to tolerate and not tolerate, what respect means to me, and how I communicate that to the other person. Because until you set boundaries, you're not going to know whether or not people are willing to cross them. Anyone who does truly want the best for you and does respect you will be happy to understand the boundaries that you're setting. Now, one thing to note is because you are changing the dynamic of that relationship, you also have to be flexible in giving them time to adjust to these new boundaries. They may still continue to go with the old ways. It doesn't mean that they're being disrespectful. They just have to learn a new habit in terms of how they interact with you. So give them time. And also make sure that you call them out each time so that they're aware that they are slipping back into habits that you don't like. Communication is key. So really, when you are in any type of relationship, the best thing to do is from the outset is start to learn the other person. Communicate how you like to be treated, how you treat others. You can even give examples about relationships that you've had in the past, friendships, romantic relationships, work colleagues, whatever, that haven't gone so well. And also relationships that have gone well. So they get an understanding of what things you do like and also what things you don't like. And in return, because this is not one way, you get to understand their perspective, how they want to be treated, what they're willing to tolerate, and what respect means to them. Ultimately, we're here to create positive, meaningful relationships that help us to benefit our lives and also the lives of others. But we can only do that if we take the time to really invest in the relationships we have. And sometimes acknowledging the relationships that we have and understanding that they are toxic, setting these boundaries and actually getting a lot of feedback to say, no, that doesn't work for me, gives you an opportunity to also let some relationships go. Not every relationship was made to go the distance. And so if you figured out that certain relationships are not working for you, they're not willing to respect the boundaries that you're setting, then maybe they're just not for you. Maybe this is your chance to clear out some relationships, to make way for some new relationships that are going to benefit you more long term. So remember, when it comes to relationships, create what you want, not what you lack. Don't just look for another relationship that was better than the last one. Get clear about what a good relationship looks like for you and segment them depending on where you are in your life. What does a good working relationship look like to you? What does a good romantic relationship look like to you? How do you want to have a relationship with your siblings, with your cousins, with your family members, with your children? Like, whatever the type of relationship it is, think about what it is you really want and where your boundaries lie. And make sure that you are communicating them to the other people so that they understand how you would like to be treated. If they treat you in a manner that you don't particularly like, then just let them know. If they're not willing to respect you in the way that you want to be respected, then maybe it's time to let them go. Either way, focus on creating positive relationships and inviting as much positivity into your life. And remember that not everybody is going to want to be there in the way that you want them to. And that's just how things are. So I hope you found this video useful. Do comment, like and share. Also subscribe to the channel and let us know how you go about setting boundaries in relationships.